Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is FreshRx Oklahoma's Mindful Meal Planning class. My name is Kiandra, a nationally certified nutrition educator, and I'm going to be walking you through some steps and giving you some tips and tricks to integrate into your meal planning for the day or for the week. The goal is that we are providing ourselves with balanced meals full of nutrition that have lots of nutrient dense fruits and vegetables on our plate that are going to leave us feeling full and not leave us wanting to grab in the cabinet and get something that might not be as good for us. This is also a great thing to integrate if you happen to deal with diabetes because you're able to make sure that your carb count is more accurate when you've planned your meals ahead. Let's get into it. Before we move on, I want to just back up a little bit and talk again about our portion sizes and what they ideally should look like every time we eat. So this is from myhealthyplate.org, and what you can see is a standard 9-inch plate, which is the typical plate that you'll have in your cabinet aside from appetizer plates. And we can clearly see that one half of the plate is full of vegetables. Ideally, there are multiple colors, right? We're eating the rainbow, so we get a nice plethora of nutrients and minerals with each meal. In this example, there's broccoli, bell peppers, cucumbers, avocado, onions, all those non starchy vegetables with the lower glycemic index, so our blood sugar is not going to spike. And then on the other side of the plate, we can see 1/4 of the plate is a lean protein. Ideally, we're going for those leaner meats that are a little more heart healthy. And then the other side of the plate is 1/4 starch. So we want these to be complex carbs. So instead of white rice, it might be brown rice with even more veggies in them, ideally, or sweet potatoes or some other type of carbohydrate that's going to sustain us longer than a simple carbohydrate, which is going to spike our blood sugars and leave us feeling hungry again. They don't fulfill us as much. Portion of the mindful meal planning. So, step one, we want to talk with our family or other people in our household about foods that they like and dishes that they might like to try. And then, of course, we want to shop at home. We want to look in the pantry, the fridge, or the freezer and see if there's anything that we can already use up to make our groceries stretch. Maybe there's some produce that needs to be used up before we go ahead and buy some more. So just be mindful of that. And then finding recipes that match your family's taste and your health goals. So your family might have a specific flavor profile that they're used to or that you really prefer. So being able to use those flavor profiles or herbs or spices in new dishes kind of makes it easier to try new things. And also, if you're a Fresh RX member, you do receive recipes at every distribution. So, those are a great way to try new things and maybe integrate some new veggies into your dishes moving forward. So we also want to fill out a meal planner to stay organized and on track. So I have one that I like to keep on my fridge, and it is just a reminder of what I have planned and what I've already shopped for. So that way I'm more likely to stay on my health goals and make sure that I'm eating nutrient dense meals and that they're properly portioned. So now that we've put all those things in mind, we're going to go ahead and make our grocery list. An example of what a meal planner could look like. This is from myplate.gov. You can print off this one or any others that you find online that you like, or if you already have a calendar that you use regularly, maybe that's a best practice for you. Even writing it down on a piece of loose leaf paper and putting it on your fridge is a great place. I personally like keeping it on my fridge because it's near all my food. I'm going to see it and it's going to prevent me from snacking or maybe straying away from the things that I've already planned for. So I'm utilizing all my groceries. We're not letting anything go to waste. And I'm sticking to these nutrient dense, balanced meals that are going to leave me feeling good. And having them notated is also a good way to look back and say, hey, I really like this one. I'm going to go ahead and try and make this again. Or this particular recipe left me not feeling so great. So maybe we won't try that. Things to keep in mind while we're transitioning from the planning phase to the executing phase. Now we have ideally made our plan, made our grocery list, gone to the store, and come back and we're ready to get everything set up. So we want to make sure that it's a time of day or a time of the week where you're less rushed, where you can put thought into it put some love into it and make sure it tastes good. And maybe put on some music and have fun with it, or have a friend or a partner cook with you. And then choosing at least one day to make meals in advance. So, whether you are someone who makes meals for the whole week in advance, or 2 or 3 days in advance, or even just making your lunch for the next day is a great place to start. We are setting our future self up for success by making sure that we have plenty of healthy options to choose from. And another tip is to maybe have a theme for each day of the week to keep it interesting so that we're rotating recipes, that our diet is full of the rainbow and we're getting lots of different types of vegetables and whole grains and lean proteins throughout the week. It's good for our gut biome and is a fun way to try new things. So maybe it's a meatless Monday or a taco Tuesday, whole grain Wednesday are just a few ideas. A couple other things to keep in mind while you're planning your meals and getting them portioned and ready for the week, especially if you are diabetic, is making sure that you have the right amount of carbs for each meal and snack that you've prepared for yourself. So, a standard guideline from the American Diabetes Association is that we're eating 15 to 25 grams of carbs at most for a snack, 45 grams of carbs for meals for women, and 60 grams of carbs for meals for men. Now, if your doctor and or dietitian has recommended otherwise, definitely stick with their recommendation. This is just a guideline to help portion out our meals. So now that we have ensured that our carbs are the right portion size, we want to think about how can I make this more filling. So protein and fiber are great options to add to meals or snacks. They're both great with blood sugar regulation, and making sure our blood sugars don't spike as quickly when we're eating carbs. And they also help us feel full for longer, so we're less likely to snack. And another thing to think about is how can I make this meal more nutritious? What else can I add to this meal to give my body more nutrition? Is there an additional vegetable or herbs or anything else that would make it more beneficial to you and your body and leave you feeling full? Just because we are somewhat limited in the amount of carbs we can eat doesn't mean that we can't fill up our plate with other nutritious things. On the days that you decide to start meal planning, we want to start with the foods that are going to take the longest to cook, such as proteins like chicken, whole grains like brown rice, dried beans because they need to soak, or roasted vegetables. All of those take longer, so getting started with those and letting those cook while you're preparing other vegetables is a really good way to cut down on the amount of time it takes to meal prep. So while foods are baking or simmering on the stove top or in the oven, this is a great time to wash our veggies and chop or prepare other foods that don't need to be cooked as long, or things that we might keep raw in our fridge for later. So, another tip is to make extra portions of your recipe for leftovers. You can eat leftovers later in the week or use them to make a completely different new meal. For example, you might try shredding leftover baked chicken and adding it to a stew, a salad, or maybe a sandwich. So now that we've planned our meals, prepped it, and we've got it all cooked, we want to try and put servings of the prepared meal in individual containers. Now, we talked about pre-portioning. This is a great way to make your meals grab and go so that you can just heat them up, and it takes some of the guesswork out of, is this the amount of carbs that I need to have? Is this the right amount of fiber? You've already done all the hard work. Now you just get to enjoy the fruits of your labor and enjoy these delicious meals. Now, we talked about meal planning and we've mentioned snacks, of course, but being able to have quick snacks available for the week in your fridge is going to be a game changer for you. So, things like maybe some hard boiled eggs, some fresh cut fruit, or even some small salads. You can make a green salad that uses dressing. Just don't add the dressing until right before you eat it so it won't get soggy. So now that we've prepped all of our meals, we have them all packaged and ready to go to be put in the fridge for later. We definitely want to make sure that we're dating these on the day that we made them or the day that they're going to go bad. So pick one or the other to stick with. That way you're not getting your dates confused. But this is just a small graph of some food safe regulations as far as how long certain foods should last. Now, if you open something and it doesn't look right, it doesn't smell right, definitely be safe. Foodborne illnesses are definitely no joke. You definitely don't want to end up with that when you're trying to help yourself out. So feel free to pause and take a look or maybe take a picture of this. A lot of you probably already know the times that things can sit in the fridge and be fine, but it's definitely a good way to remind ourselves to make sure that we are not accidentally making ourselves sick while we're trying to ensure that we have prepped meal plans for the week. So, if you're a FreshRx member in your new member kit, you did receive a storage worksheet that has a variety of produce and the best ways to store it to make it stay fresh longer and last. So, another tip for keeping your produce fresh is keeping it in towards the front of your fridge and kind of at eye level so you don't forget about them. One thing that I do is I actually use my door of my fridge for my produce. And then I actually put all my condiments in the drawers because I'm a very visual person and I need to see my produce to just remind myself that it is there. And if you freeze meals, make sure that you're storing them in airtight containers and we're also labeling and dating them. Again, labeling and dating our containers, make sure that we are not creating a foodborne illnesses and that we know what to eat first and when they need to be eaten by. So, another tip for your meal planning, whether you're diabetic or not, is to just take note of how you feel after you eat your meals. Am I feeling sluggish? Am I feeling energetic? Was that not filling enough? Maybe I need to add more fiber. But if you are diabetic, that 2 hour after meal glucose check, we definitely want to make sure that we're staying within range. So it gives us an idea, was our portion sizing on par? Did our body respond to it well? And if it did and it tastes good, that's definitely something that we would want to replicate in future meal plans. At this point, we've covered mindful meal planning, how to put together a plan that's going to keep us in our budget, that's going to utilize things we already have at home, and keep us aligned with our health goals. We've talked about meal prepping and tips for storage and longevity. Some additional tips as you move forward with your meal planning journey. You'll kind of figure out which meals your family likes and go to more often and which ingredients you tend to use more of. And being able to buy some of those in bulk, especially when they have a long shelf life, is definitely going to be easier on the wallet. Things like rice, pasta, dried beans, healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil. Those are always great to have on hand to supplement with your vegetables and your proteins. We also want to make sure that we're rotating recipes and continue to look for new healthy recipes to try. This makes sure that we're getting a wide variety of nutrients and minerals in our diet and that we're also keeping it interesting. We definitely want to enjoy the food that we're cooking, especially when we're putting so much effort into it. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help. Meal planning for anyone can be tricky, but especially when you have a diet related disease, it can be even more tricky. But the payoff can be great. And as I said, we're setting our future self up for success. So you want to talk with your doctor, nutritionist, or a diabetes educator if you are struggling with that. If you are a FreshRx member, we do have nutritionists that we can refer you to if you need some additional help. We definitely want to see you succeed, and we're hopeful that you can take some of these mindful meal prep tips and tricks and implement them into your everyday lifestyle. Thank you so much for watching. We're so glad that you are on this health journey with us, and we are here to support you and empower you to have a healthy lifestyle and to feel amazing. If you are a FreshRx member, please make sure to let us know that you've watched this video so it can count for your attendance. Whether you comment down below that you've watched it or reach out to myself, the nutrition educator, and let me know that you've watched it. Your participation in your nutrition education is vital to your success, and we commend you for taking the time to build up your tools and your arsenal belt of wellness tips. Thanks again for watching. Have a great and happy, healthy day.